Hi, I'm Maggie now. We're back on our second episode of R.I.P. Reading is Phenomenal. So today we are going to move on to Chapter 1. A great chapter indeed. Just to really quick sum it all up, the two big topics in this chapter are, first of all, how Comey got involved in law and just like his childhood experience and also just in college. And also, two, Comey's kind of foreshadowing of how Trump's administration would be an administration kind of covered with lies. And he does that by delving into the mafia and how the mafia in that same way was also just covered in lies and loyalty. So he kind of is setting up for later chapters in this chapter by talking about the mafia and its loyalty and lies, and how the Trump administration also was very surrounded on loyalty and lies. So, he doesn't start off with this, but I feel like I'll start. He chose law and law enforcement because when he was 16, he ran into the Ramsey rapist actually entered his home and threatened his brother's life with a gun and his own life with a gun. He could have killed him. It was a whole entire debacle. They're outside trying to get away from the guy. So like he went into his home and he was trying to rob them. Like robbers do, except it was the Ramsey rapist, and he was a very famous robber. And so when Comey had his life at stake because he had a gun to his head, it just afterward it made him value the little things in life and just life in general. And he never wanted to feel that weak again, and he never wanted to see his brother in trouble ever again. And he wanted to help. He wanted to help the weak. I'm trying to do a podcast. Well, everybody interrupts my podcast. Yeah. He wanted to make sure that he was helping the weak in his work, the struggling, the frightened, and the bullied. And he wanted to make a difference. So that encounter with death really just kind of, I feel like, spurred up a feeling of like he had to help people. And then also that encounter with death later in life when he was in college, he wasn't actually on the path of law. He was on a different path. But then he saw a religion class on the law, and on it said death. And I guess that caught his eye, and actually this whole entire class, but because, the death caught his eye because he just at being so close at an encounter with death, it kind of like, he saw it again. He's like, interested in that class. So the professor and the class in general just transformed the way he looked at death and also justice. And so that really led him to choose law. So those two huge things really led him to taking that path. And his entire life was changed by like just two of those events. And so, yeah. And then, he gets into law, and one of the first things that he does talk about is the mafia. So as an assistant U.S. attorney in New York City, he dealt a lot with the mafia, and one of those people actually being a man named Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was the, quote, highest-ranking American mobster to ever become a federal witness, quote. So he basically just rat out the mafia because his boss talked dirty about him behind his back. And that just shows you like how much loyalty really is embedded in the mafia, because he found out his boss was talking bad about him, and then he ratted out to the FBI. And just when he's talking about the mafia, he brought up a lot in the book, throughout the book, but starting in chapter 1, a symbol, La Cosa Nostra, and that means this thing of ours. That was the oath of loyalty taken when entering the mafia, and it represents you becoming a made man. And so when you enter the mafia, there's a few rules. One, no killing with explosives. 2, no killing law enforcement. 3, no killing of made men, or people who've taken the La Cosa Nostra oath, or no killing without permission. a very important part. And also no sleeping with another made man's wife. Oh, there's 5 rules. No dealing in narcotics. And so, only 2 out of the 5 rules were really followed. The first 2 were only really followed because that would cause real big problems with the police and the FBI, and it would cause a huge scene. But the rest of the 3, like killing people, dark drugs, sleeping with people, they were broken all the time. And that just kind of shows you, like, yeah, they did have this, structure, this basis of, like, rules and morals, but it was broke all the time. And it was just immediately he entered into, or anybody who entered in the mafia was covered in lies because they were told, oh, yeah, we don't do any of this. But really, that is what so much of mafia life was based around, was actually doing those things that they said not to do. And so that was just some of the lies that were, based. And then also a lot of the loyalty, and also just lying to, obviously, cops and stuff like that. But also the loyalty part came in because there's a huge hierarchy in the mafia. Obviously, it's just everybody listens to the boss. Nobody questions the boss. You are loyal to the boss over everything. And so this creates kind of an us versus them view. Us versus them view, because you report to your boss. You don't listen to anybody else. It's like it's like a cult. Well, I guess it is. I don't know. I don't think the mafia is a cult. I'm not exactly sure about the definition of a cult. I'll have to look that up. But it is in that way that you follow a leader and you do not betray them no matter what. Like, actually, it said if you betray the mafia, your soul will be burnt. So it really separates people from the mafia from everybody else, because no matter what, they're going to do what their boss tells them. And the boss is in complete control. So that just really is something that also foreshadows in future chapters when Comey does talk about Trump, because Trump thinks he is like a mafia-like leader. Everybody has to listen to what he says. Nobody can betray him. And especially when it comes to Comey, Trump wanted a higher loyalty, which is what the book is called. But we'll get into that good stuff in the later chapters, because this episode 2, is over. Thanks to our listeners. I hope you have a great day. This was Maggie No on RIP. Okay.